Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dieline Decoded, where we talk with leaders in packaging design to hear about trends and techniques to assist in our creative packaging design process. Today, we're speaking with Amir Shalev, who is Director of Market Development at Landa Digital Printing, Tara Duckett, who's the manager at the Mansfield sales team for Southern Champion Tray, and Brad Harrelson. He's the general manager at Southern Champion Tray. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Deb. Really excited to be speaking with Dieline subscribers and the design community. And let's see what we'll cover today. So we'll talk a little bit about our company and the opportunities that we bring, cover different printing technologies, how we are differentiated with nanography, how we can turn challenges into opportunities. And then Southern Champion Tray will talk about nanography in action and give their own experiences, share their own experiences. So let's start with imagining a world with endless diversity for product packages, any number of versions, even to a level where every box, every page could be completely different, with the widest color space, printing any spot colors, as many spot colors as you like, without any additional cost, using any sort of board, and even exploring opportunities outside of paper fiber, having a production ready proof in zero time, and moving into long run production, ready to scale as much as needed. And all of that with sustainability in mind. So using water-based inks, printing on recycled media, having the print completely recyclable, and eliminating the typical paper and board waste that goes into printing packages with the analog technologies. So who are we? What are we all about? In Landa, we're about nanography. That's our core technology, and we give freedom. We liberate print providers and converters from the barriers of traditional both offset and digital printing technologies. We enable the fastest turnaround time to print stunning images and having an unmatched color gamut, any run length on any sort of paper, coated, uncoated, virgin, recycled, brown, you name it. So here's a video I think that describes it quite well.
From the beginning of time, man has left his mark graphically. First with paint, and then with ink. Nearly 600 years ago, Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press and changed the course of civilization. From that day, printing has remained a mechanical process, able only to duplicate the same image page after page.
When Gutenberg first invented the printing press, though he surely didn't imagine the technologies of today.
But now we live in an online, on-demand world where products need to be tailored, customized, even personalized to appeal to today's consumers. That's why, decades ago, at Indigo, we invented the digital printing press, creating an entirely new category, digital commercial printing.
It is my privilege to introduce you to the Indigo ePrint 1000, the world's first digital offset color press.
But the Indigo technology, though the best of its day, has limitations. In order to replace mainstream offset printing, you must be able to print at high speed with the highest of quality on B1 41-inch sheets, and all of this on any paper stock. That's where Landa nanographic printing comes in, with a game-changing technology that does exactly that. So here's how the magic is done. The nanographic printing process begins with the ejection of billions of microscopic droplets of water-based nano ink onto the heated image conveyor blanket. Each droplet of nano ink blends with other droplets to create the final color image. When all of the water has been evaporated, the ink image becomes an ultra-thin, dry polymeric film, only 500 nanometers thick, the thinnest ink image of any printing process. Upon transfer to the substrate, the nano ink film instantaneously bonds, forming a tough, abrasion-resistant layer, leaving no residual ink on the blanket. Nano ink images can be transferred to any ordinary coated or uncoated paper without any kind of pre-treatment, and can also be transferred to plastic films. Since nano ink images are already dry, printed sheets can be coated in line with conventional UV or water-based coatings and then processed in finishing equipment right out of the press. And all of this with breathtaking print quality at offset press speeds.
Yeah, so printing comes to life with Landa. So recapping the differences for printing folding carton boxes, offset is the gold standard and it's a great technology. However, it's geared for longer runs. When you prepare a new job, there's associated paper waste, board waste that could be running in the high hundreds depending on the complexity of the job, especially when you're adding new colors that are outside of the CMYK space, spot colors. The more spot colors, the more waste, the more cost. Offset does not have the ability to add variable data. Basically, it's a static printing technology. And to resolve these issues, digital technologies came into play. Inkjet and other sort of digital technologies came into play, but they are still limited with the paper span, using water-based ink and firing it directly onto the paper. You have issues like dot gain, you have issues between ink and media interactions, and these solutions are limited in terms of the production capacity, and many of them, most of them, are also limited in their color space, working in CMYK only. And this is where we come in with nanography, using our own technology, which is based on nanographic ink with tiny particles, and firing them onto the blanket and drying the image when it is on the blanket, transferring it directly onto the board, thereby reaching quality, high saturation. The pigments are staying on top of the paper and are not seeping down onto the soaking into the paper fiber. So any paper and at very high speeds. Basically the best of both worlds: offset chassis, offset performance, with the flexibility of digital printing and without the associated limitations. And in terms of the benefits for brands, these are the standout colors, the rich colors that appeal to the consumers, really hyper real colors on any sort of board type. It means diversity in production. It could also mean cost saving, because you could reach a very rich and saturated and high fidelity image on lower cost board and paper, and of course variety of different substrates to work with, to allow your creativity to come out, and have endless number of versions, even to a level where every page, every print, every box could be different, all in an environmental envelope with water-based inks, food compliant, recyclable, printing on recycled media, and in a high capacity platform that is able to print thousands and thousands of sheets in a single run. That's our story, and that is the press. That is the nanographic printing press, runs at 6,500 B1 sheets an hour with virtually zero make ready, regardless of the number of colors that you like or the complexity of the image, running from very thin paper to thick boards up to 32 point boards, covering 96% of Pantones in the 7-color configuration, water-based, unique nano ink, and printing on any paper without pretreatment, and connecting to a typical converter workflow with B1 full-size 41-inch sheet. All the finishing equipment is geared towards that. It means that you can run larger boxes. It also means that you can have higher capacity on the full line, not just for printing. And here's one example that I thought about that could be relevant for designers thinking about the route between having a print file and taking it into the actual market. So you have the file and you want to see it, you want to print it, probably using a digital proofer, but then the paper could be different. You may not have varnish, so the look and feel of the proof is going to be different. You want to see how it looks on a real production press. On an offset press, it means plate making and color mixing, and of course the associated make-ready waste. And then you run it, and you want to prove the production proof and maybe go into production. And maybe some of the times you need to introduce changes. Maybe it didn't come out the way you wanted it to come out, and think about the complexity of rerunning in case of rejection, and even rerunning if you want to order a second run due to market demand. You need to repeat the process. So this is an inflexible and slow to react sort of a process. Very good for the longer types of run when the job is already in production. But here's where we play in with our digital process and having a production proof right away and scaling it up from a proof into a full production run, and easily adapt it as the market requires, as the messaging changes. This is basically the quickest way to reach the consumer with different sort of graphics and different sort of messages. So we'll talk about case studies. I'll present the first one, and then Southern Champion will describe their own experience. This is one that I like a lot. This was done, a job that was requested by Crayola, was produced with one of our customers in the US. They came out with crayons to allow every child in the world, regardless of skin tone, to have their own representation. And it came out with the crayons and, of course, the coloring booklet. And the coloring booklet had color patches, 24 different color patches that were associated with the crayons. Many of them, most of them, were not suitable to be printed in a CMYK process. And thinking about trying to produce this sort of a job on an offset press, it would mean thousands and thousands of sheets, virtually impossible to produce this in an economical way. It was produced on the Landa press at this customer site seamlessly with very minimal waste, and ready to be reprinted at any time. And actually it was reprinted several times due to growing demand for the crayons and for the booklet. And additionally, think about the opportunity to add to this booklet variable data, ordering it for a certain child and having the child's name. This is something that can only be done with digital and can only be done with Landa due to the combination of variable data and high capacity. So that's an interesting sort of a campaign, and you can think about all the opportunities that this sort of technology can bring to you. And now I'm very excited to give the floor over to Southern Champion Trey and listen to what they have to tell us.
Thank you, Amir. Southern Champion Tray is a 96-year-old family-owned folding carton company with 3 locations in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Fairfield, Ohio, and Mansfield, Texas. Our Chattanooga and Fairfield locations operate with a distribution model and service bakery, food service, and grocery markets. Our Mansfield location works with customers directly to provide custom packaging for retail applications. 80% of our business in Mansfield is retail food packaging, and all 3 of our manufacturing plants are BRC certified. We purchased the Landa last year, and we put it into service in January. But we were an early adopter of digital technology in the folding carton market when we purchased an HP 30,000 in 2016. Digital print has existed in some form in folding carton for a shorter amount of time than it has in other print markets. But it's rapidly changing. Its adoption in folding carton has been slower, primarily due to quality concerns, format size, limitation of calipers, and run speeds. The other issue with digital has been that it has a higher unit cost and it requires a different kind of selling approach that's primarily focused on total cost of ownership versus just the unit price. The biggest benefit that we saw early on was transitioning the smaller runs off of our offset presses and providing our new customers a cost-effective platform to get their products in the market faster, and the ability, and our larger customers, a way to test new designs before committing to larger runs. And one of the challenges that we've had, though, through this process that we learned in our initial adoption of digital technology was tooling. That was an issue with the smaller format size. It also made it challenging to move jobs between digital and offset production when necessary, and it added extra time and cost that we really didn't want to pass on to the customers. As I mentioned before, we are a large independent folding carton company. 80% of our business is retail food packaging, and forecasting for our customers is extremely difficult. So we have a rapid response service model in Mansfield to help our customers who can't wait 4 to 6 weeks for their packaging to get their products to the shelf faster. We learned with the HP that it was very difficult to accomplish this consistently when we were mixing digital work in different format sizes on our conventional finishing assets. So we kind of when we were looking at what we were going to do next, what our next step was, we took a bit of a holistic approach, and we intended to create a dedicated digital workflow to speed up our lead times and expand our digital targets, and also increase our overall capacity by freeing up time on our offset presses and conventional finishing equipment. So why do we choose Landa? First and foremost, it was the format size. The 48-inch format size provided an ease of transferring business between our print assets, and also that helped us to reduce our tooling, the amount of duplicate tooling that we needed if we needed to move things back and forth, and the cost for that. So we didn't have to create it. We didn't have to also wait the time that it was going to take to get the additional tooling made to have that flexibility. So that was a big part of our decision. Both the run speeds and format size have raised the break-even sheet run from offset to digital from 2,000 sheets for the HP to over 5,000 for the Landa. We've calculated transitioning 4.8 million sheets from our existing offset assets to the Landa, which we believe will create about $220,000 in annual savings, primarily due to less make-ready time and less make-ready waste. So in essence, we're going to transition all of our work off of our HP in one cumulative shift from our offset presses and produce this volume on one shift on the Landa. We also were impressed with, we were looking at the Landa at the time back in 2016 when we purchased the HP, and we were really we've seen in the last few years, we've been monitoring their technology improvements. Their print quality has really improved from marginal to commercially acceptable during that time. In the past few years, we also saw the uptime on the machine dramatically improved. So our financial analysis for our purposes, we assumed that it was a 60% uptime, but recent data suggests that 65% is more attainable. So that was one of the main reasons that we were really excited and that we were looking at upgrading our digital equipment, that we chose Landa. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tara Duckett, our sales manager. She's going to review a few recent success stories we've had with the Landa.
Thank you. So just a few exciting things that we've seen so far. We're blown away every day to what we can do with the Landa and how we can challenge it. So some of the things that we're experiencing, such as this first case study, was something that we never thought about. So first case study to talk about was we actually had a frozen seafood manufacturer that we ran day-to-day jobs on our offset applications. They ran into a snag where their actual retailer had run out of their product and needed something on the shelf as quickly as possible. So based on our backlog on offset and also the amount of time it took to actually run these samples, we really didn't think that we could support them. So we actually had our team get together and really dial in and take a look at what we could do with the Landa based upon their needs, and realize, hey, kind of taking a step back and realizing the application, it actually makes more sense to run on a Landa. So while we had, out the gate identified at a certain threshold of sheets, we were only going to run, a certain number on the Landa. Anything else would make sense going back over to our offset application. So when we sat down and kind of did the numbers, looking at, it was a very heavily SKU heavy brand. And just varying quantities amongst the products we identified, even though they were looking at about 500,000 pieces, the savings alone for how long it would take in production, the amount of sheets that we would utilize, the number of printing plates, and then the hours of make ready that we saw, it really opened our eyes to a whole new way to actually challenge the press and utilize the press in our day-to-day opportunities that we never really thought about. So some of these numbers that you see on the slide, most people, if you understand a digital application, you're normally not looking to run almost 100,000 sheets on a digital press. But really breaking it down, whenever you got into the nitty gritty of the numbers, it really looked and you said, hey, this actually makes a lot more sense than what we thought. And it also allowed us to achieve that really quick turnaround and get product back on the shelf for our customer, which they were super grateful for. The other thing that we actually identified was we had a no-touch application. So we took the files previously ran on our offset press, dropped them straight onto the Landa, and then had our sign-off press sheets and our Epson targets that we actually use for any kind of color approvals. Notice there was no color variance. There was no issues as far as the quality. It was truly a no-touch move from one press to the next. So that was something that was very surprising to us. We really didn't know how close the printing technologies would be. So that was exciting for our team just to understand, even if we, on a day-to-day, if we run a job and we're a little bit short, in the end, it allows us to understand how we can actually drop some of those files back onto our Landa and make up that smaller volume. So that was truly an exciting find that we had, that we realized, hey, this is going to really change the game for how we can serve our customers. Case 2 is another application. So this is a little bit different as far as the strategy. So this customer is a new and emerging brand. We identified really early on that it was going to make a lot of sense for them because their volumes were very, very low. This was just going to be a better application for us to run their projects on. The great thing with this is they actually had the availability to dial in graphics. So we actually took them from concept, starting out with creating, prototypes and samples, utilizing the press to really help them dial in on color. So they were able to go through all of their products and utilize, 6 or 7 different versions, targeting out multiple spot colors that you would never be able to do on an actual offset technology, and dial into what they felt was their brand and what was going to be their identity. They're a very SKU heavy customer. So it also helped them to, do that just-in-time packaging, to really stay focused on making sure, hey, we're not going to overrun products that we don't know are going to be heavy hitters. We want to be sure that we identify which products are going to be our heavy movers and which ones may not last. So it really allowed them to save on that front end of things to ensure that they're not actually buying much more product than they actually need. And it gives them the opportunity to continuously evolve their brand and their design. So that's a really exciting case study. And even today, there has not been one job that they have not changed some form of the graphic or the brand or the color. So Landa's really allowed them to really, change the game as far as executing, utilizing as many colors as possible, and then constantly evolving that brand, which is super exciting. And then to this day, they're believers in Landa. So I think that, we'll continue to see that type of application happen as we continue to grow in those markets. So just to kind of touch on everything, I know Amir's talked a little bit about it, but the main benefits of going digital that we really see here at SCT and that we're excited about is the availability of no minimums, really helping somebody from a start to finish process of their product and their packaging, helping them out developing, starting out with prototypes, working on colors, allowing them to do sales samples and market tests, going out and ensuring, hey, what I'm going to design and what I'm going to produce is going to scream to people on the shelves. It's going to really, it's going to make an impact. Our focus again is we're really thinking that seasonal and promotional as well as personalized packaging is something that's going to be a big win for us. Normally seasonal and promotional, regional type of applications where you're not necessarily wanting to do millions of pieces, you're targeting strictly to your regions, or, Christmas, Valentine's. We really feel that's going to be a big market for us in the digital. Complete customization. That's been a really big trend, being able to put your name on a box or put your dog on a pet treat box. And then SKU heavy products. So products that while you have, 10 to 15 different items that are out there, maybe not all of them are going to be million piece orders. So it allows you that flexibility to really pick and choose which ones you need to run heavy volumes and which ones you need to do very minimal runs on. Just-in-time packaging, again, such as that energy bar company that we kind of talked about earlier. The big thing with just-in-time packaging, especially as fads change or there's new trends going on, it really allows you to keep your packaging up to date. You're no longer having to use out of date or something that's not going to really appeal to people's senses. So it's going to allow you to really continue to evolve that packaging. We truly believe that digital is a really, really great fit for anybody who's a new or emerging company, somebody who's out there looking to kind of dabble with getting out in the world, but not needing to necessarily go in and achieve high volume runs in the beginning. So starting out with maybe a 500, a 1500, a 2000, a 10,000 piece run, that's what we really feel is going to be a big win for us. And then finally, the speed to market. So really being able to get in and serve people based upon their needs, whether Walmart's run out of whatever their product is that's on shelf and they need something in 2 days or less, or they just need something to get out the door and a 4 or 6 week lead time is not going to work. So again, we're big believers in Landa, and we truly are so excited for the opportunity of where it's going to help take us.
Okay, so we're ready to take questions, I guess. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. My name is Bill McCool. I'm the managing editor at Dieline. Today I'm joined with Amir, obviously from Landa, and then we have Tara and Brad from Southern Champion Tray. Thank you guys so much for a super awesome presentation. That was really great. I just want to kind of open up by saying, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box on your screen. I'm going to kick everything off by first saying congratulations to Amir, because the Landa looks like something out of Star Trek. It is crazy.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
So first off, Amir, I kind of know you kind of briefly touched on it, but I'd like to hear you talk a little bit more about it here. How is digital printing a more sustainable option?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I would like to think about it in a new way. So instead of talking about sustainability, I'd like to introduce the concept of sustainability squared. And what I mean by that is the sustainability sustainable? So if we're offering something that appears to have positive environmental benefits, but it doesn't hold economically, and we try to push it, it's not going to stick for the long term. So whatever we do has to have, I believe, for the long run, an economical benefit in order to sustain for the long run. So we touched the first level, which is the product itself, the printing product, the fact that we can print on recycled media, that our prints are completely recyclable. And then there's the second level of the make ready, avoiding the make ready waste, which is significant. And then there's an additional level, which I think Tara touched upon, with the just-in-time production. So if you think about the amount of boxes that are being produced, the amount of sheets that are being produced to keep in storage, and or for overprinting, for cutting and things like that, that can be printed just in time, that's a huge benefit, both economically as well as for the environment.
Awesome. Tara and Brad, my Southern Tray folks here. Working with Landa, what really sort of stood out to you as, you know, some of the more beneficial aspects of the entire process? Like you guys mentioned something about how it's more efficient for smaller runs. How so?
Well, when we talk about the fact that the press can run, you know, the press it can run 6,500 sheets per hour continuous speed. When we were trying to run those runs on our offset presses, it was just taking a lot of make ready time. So we can add additional capacity on our offset presses by moving those runs onto the Landa and having a common format size to be able to go back and forth when we need to. That's a big advantage. The other advantage was, I think there's a question here, so I'm probably going to answer that as well. As far as how it compares to the Indigo, which we had before. The Indigo is a great platform, and we used it for many years successfully. Our primary issue with that was not necessarily print quality, but it was just the format size. It's a half size, and the going to a 40-inch format, you know, is our next step. Was just non-negotiable for us. We needed to do that for our business. And the other thing is it's more similar when we're going back and forth to make sure that we can match, because the Landa uses a blanket and an impression cylinder. The blanket's a little different, but it uses a blanket and impression cylinder, so it's very similar to offset litho. So those are some of the reasons that what we saw was very beneficial for us.
Gotcha. Awesome. So Steven has 3 questions. He's getting 3 questions in here. I don't know how we're going to get to all of them. We're going to get to all of them. It's fine. All right. So they're all pack focused. First off, how many nano printers are currently in the US?
So there's about, I think 30 presses worldwide. And I believe in the US it's more than half. So I believe it's around about 20 presses in the US, maybe 18 presses in the US right now, but it's growing all the time. So I can't really keep track. It's
The second part, is it the same trapping print minimums, like 1-to-1 per offset, or flexo if film?
Wow, that's a question for pre-press guys.
I'm sorry.
any sort of very technical, unless the guys from Southern Champion can take that. You have my contact details in the resources, so just click on that and send me your questions, and I'll make sure that the technical guys get back to you with the answers for these sort of questions.
Perfect. Here's the third one. Is there an opaque white for clear film applications?
So that's an easy one. Right now, we're 7 colors, which do not include white. We're always looking at different advancements and opportunities, but at this point of time, we do not have white ink.
Gotcha. So Sharon asks, what are the calipers of substrate that can run? Is it typical 12 to 24 point? Also, are there any issues with specialty board like craft or silver met poly?
So it's 2.4 points until 32 points. So with a thin paper until thick paper. We print mainly on paper boards, but we can print as well some plastics like styrene. So it really depends on the specific substrate.
Gotcha.
I can add to that as well.
Go ahead, please do.
We've run up to 28 point on it, and so in right now as low as 100 pound C1S sheets, so more label stock. So we've gone to a lot of ranges when we've run different grades. We could run we've run recycle board, we've run SBS, and we've run SUS. So a lot of different grades, a lot of different calipers. The flexibility of the range in the calipers and the substrates is very good.
Gotcha. Stacy asks, how does the Landa press create more vibrant colors than other presses using the same Pantone inks?
So I think there's two ways to look at that. One is that significant number of prints are printed on CMYK color space. So there's a difference clearly, as designers, between what you see on the screen and what you take as a photo with the RGB color space, and then it's constricted down into CMYK. And we're able to print directly with RGB color space, and therefore you get really, when you look at posters and things like that, were converted to CMYK. The images are much more vibrant. And the other way to think about it is what is the structure of the pigment itself, the size of the pigment, and how much light is absorbed. So when you check for Pantones, there's a specific lab conditions that you use with your spectrophotometer, but that's a very constricted space. And then think about the different lighting conditions, and the colors will behave differently in different situations. And with the nano inks, you get a wider envelope of where your print shine best. Southern Champion, do you have anything to add to
that? No, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tara.
Oh, no, sorry. So one of the big, just to really be clear, so the press itself does not run Pantone inks, but it does a 7-color gamut. So what we've really identified is the match to the Pantone based upon using that extended gamut. We to date have not any troubles hitting any Pantone that's out there. Now, there will be some that obviously without an actual true PMS ink that you're not going to achieve. But to date, we've been very pleased and happy with the vibrancy and the actual ability of the press to dial into the Pantone's library. So like I said, again, it's not a Pantone ink, but that extended gamut, like there has really been very, very few colors that I've ever seen that the press was not able to achieve.
Nice. What about Sharon asks, what about coatings inline?
We can run UV, soft touch, gloss, aqueous, matte aqueous, just about anything.
Right on. Tara, I want to kind of go back to something that you mentioned during the presentation. I kind of want to go back to that energy bar case study that you had up there. Why is the Landa good for startup brands when they're still trying to complete their brand identity?
Yeah, so really that whole start to finish application of being able to start with, here's where we're at as a brand, produce some samples, allow them to take those samples, see them visually in person, maybe hold focus group tests, maybe just run it by, in your sales pitches and making sure, hey, is the buyer going to be intrigued and pleased with this design? So from there, getting their feedback and then going through and saying, okay, I have an order for just this many pieces. Let's only order these pieces because we're still new. We're not sure how good we're going to take off once we hit the market. So that, that just-in-time packaging is key with a digital press, really allowing you time to work and continuously revamp that brand until you finalize exactly where you want to be and who you are. So this one energy bar company that was in the case study, from the start of their very first run to every run after, their design changed dramatically. It has not really stayed exactly the same. And a lot of it is the feedback that they were getting, whether it was feedback from buyers, feedback from focus group testing, or even just, maybe the owner wasn't happy with it. I think that it really allowed them to go through and ensure what they were doing was something that everybody was dialed in and happy with.
Great. I have a few technical questions. Maybe these are more for Amir, but we can kind of lightning round this a little bit, okay? Number one, what run length is economical versus offset?
So the answer to that question is it depends. It really depends on the type of substrate, the weight of the substrate, because we're saving waste, the make-ready time. Are we comparing versus a run with multiple spot colors? So I think Southern Champion mentioned a number like 5,000 sheets. It could be lower than that in some cases. It could be higher than that in some cases. There are cases that we've seen with customers printing tens of thousands of sheets due to saving on the paper itself, because we're able to print on low-grade paper. We've seen converters that were able to use paper types that were not many times not suitable for offset, and therefore we've also seen runs of tens of thousands of sheets. So that's the best answer I can give.
Can you print double-sided?
So yeah, on the S10, which is what Southern Champion have, it's a single-sided print. However, we do have the S10P, which is a double-sided press, and it can run almost the same thickness as the S10, a little bit more restricted. So it is an option to consider.
And can you print in RGB color space?
Yeah, so I touched on that. One of the advantages is that we're able to directly print a file that's given to the prepress in RGB format. So we're saving time and cost associated with prepress, and also the result itself is a saturated, vivid image. So yeah.
Gotcha.
And just one thing to add on the double side printing. So today, while it isn't an inline, like it's something that's going to be an automatic feed. We can do a double sided. It's just through a reinsertion process, but we've been very successful. We have probably one of our largest digital clients. Every single item for them is double side printed.
Nice. What happens with the offset press once you buy a Landa?
That could be a
you free up space on your offset presses for your larger runs, so you're adding additional capacity to sell. That was a big part of our decision.
Yeah, that's an interesting part, because we see that instead of the offset production going down, you see the offset production actually improving because you took away all the inefficient make-ready time waste out of the offset. So that's a fun fact.
Just about done here. Actually, real quick, what varnish types can you use?
Yeah, so I think Southern Champion answered that. Basically, the concept is to have an inline coater that's analog-like to enable any sort of varnish that is used in the industry. So the widest array of varnishes as needed: UV, water-based, glossy, frictionless, etc. So any sort of varnish, basically.
Gotcha. And finally, where can we see the press working?
So as we said, we have a lot of installations in the US. We run open houses, so feel free to reach out to me, and I'll find a match. We're also participating in the shows, so you can look out for us there as well. From my side.
There you go. Oh, we got one more. We have one more that came in. Can we do one more? We got one more, right? We got one more in us. All right. Can the Landa be used for fine art applications, and will color vibrancy last?
Yes and yes. So that's a little bit outside of the scope of packaging, but we're finding out that with outside of the paper realm, we can also have amazing results on canvas. So yeah, we have commercial customers that are printing canvas, and of course packaging converters, if they'd like to dabble with that as well, they can. And yeah, it can do fine art. The images are amazing on paper, on canvas. And in terms of the light fastness, We have the blue wool scores, which is the method that's used to check light fastness. And yes, the colors hold better than offset.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps everything up. Amir, Tara, Brett, thank you guys so much for being here today. What an awesome presentation. And, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, we're going to sign off. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.